Hello, I'm Shelley Rothus, and I'm a different kind of victim. Part 3, Personal Boundaries. Now, I had mentioned the word respect 2 times, and the word respect is, as I defined, as being real, empathy, safe, personal integrity, effort, communication, and trust. And trust about the other ones. So, in part 2, I had gone over my new personal and boundary as to what I will not tolerate. And I'm actually really glad that I did, because actually, it made me realize that, like, I'll use Ken again as the guinea pig, is that not the recent bullying incident, but the last one before that. If depending, because of the situation, he was a witness and had known the most about me based upon my situation. Like I said, I felt stuck. But let's put that aside, like that wasn't even there. Like that wasn't even a part of that incident as to when that happened, coincidentally, unfortunately. But I'm sure I would have done the same thing, is still stayed friends with Ken. So the point I'm making is that my personal boundaries were not good. And me staying friends with someone like Ken, who I had seen was in a hate group, was saying very cruel and despicable things about me, yet pretending to be my friend. It's like my friend Nina had told me. I didn't quite get it, but she said, if they say it, then they mean it. Take it as being real. And what he said was that was very hurtful in the last bullying incident, was that he was going to try to find a way to get rid of me without hurting my feelings. Well, as we've seen, that didn't quite happen. But say it, if they say it, they mean it. Well, he said that he wasn't going to hurt my feelings, but in the end, he did get rid of me. He did buy into lies and go out of his way to, harm me, intentionally. So that right there is where I'm going to bring in the conditioned, normalized victimization syndrome. I had the wants, is that he's the first person that I trusted and I had opened up to the most based upon the abuse that I had endured, and the most about myself personally based upon, my own personal beliefs, my feelings about different things that I'd never shared with anybody else. Also, his words of wisdom, and also, feeling safe talking to that person as to trust, and also feeling comfortable. So that want and the feelings in between was that the grievance and trying to accept and realize that I was actually in a very toxic relationship, and it wasn't, of course, good for me, and that means that they weren't a good friend at all. So having to come to that realization, even especially then during that time, would have been extremely hard on me, because I already had to come to the acceptance and realization of what my father really is, which was what I wanted, was before he became abusive, which was many, many years ago, what he is now, and the feelings in between. So it was extremely hard to go through somebody that I first trusted on top of my father at the same time. So anyways, cutting out the father part, I realized afterwards that now, actually, I realize now, based upon the current situation that just happened, is that's a huge problem for me. And I ended up getting hurt very badly and traumatized more than I can actually remember out of all traumas that I've been through based upon what, those incidents with Ken. So what do I need to do? I need to avoid that at all costs, because what I want and what I need, what can happen if I just go by what I want? I'm going to end up getting extremely hurt and taking that risk of getting extremely hurt again. And if those needs aren't there and that person doesn't want to change with those needs that would make that relationship healthy, is it really worth me taking that risk to go through that pain all over again? It was hard enough with the last bullying incident when Ken had deceived me and betrayed me, and I took that risk in hopes that he maybe made a mistake, making excuses and exceptions for him doing that, which was, he was afraid of the bullying cult clan attacking him, his reputation. He was, friends with them, maybe, more often he spoke to them than me. I kept on making excuses and exceptions. But does that take away or give them a real reason to actually harm me the way they did? No, absolutely not. And that's why I made that now a boundary that I cannot forgive. And that's not something I should take a risk and chance of getting hurt. Just remembering how badly it affected me and what I went through to get through that pain after the recent online bullying incident based on what Ken had done. I don't want to go through that again. I don't want to suffer that much again. So with the current situation, when a person had basically done the same thing that I had mentioned in the part 2, as to, implying that I'm possibly lying, also believing people that they didn't even know that well based on lies that they said about me, it just brought me right back to what happened with me and Ken, and him hearing lies about me and believing it. Even when I proved certain lies, he still believed it and went along. And, like me taking that risk, what ended up happening? He ended up becoming worse. He ended up ghosting me. He ended up talking to me in very disrespectful ways, and then again ended up in a hate group, and then saying the most despicable and cruel things that anybody has ever said. So that goes back to, what Lord Dopshada had told me. And, well, even though he kind of took it back, but it's very true, is if you keep on, going back and accepting it without them even apologizing and trying to change their behaviors or even admitting to the wrong they did, you're giving them the free ticket to do it again and even be worse the next time. And that's exactly what happened with Ken. So I actually see that he did speak to me and he started being nicer, after that, last bullying incident. He was still pretty nice for a while, and then it just went really quickly down because he knows that I accepted and tolerated what he had done to me that was wrong, and he never apologized. So what does that do? I gave him a free ticket to continue harming me in any way that he chose. So he started to become more disrespectful in the way he spoke to me. Then he started to ghost me, and then he started to, act like he, cared, even though it was obvious it was fake. Hey, I got 5 minutes, make it quick, we could talk now. And then it went to him being in a hate group, believing lies about me, and then getting involved in it. So this is just proof that abuse, any type of abuse, no matter where it happens, what type it is, who it happens from, considering that Ken was just a friend, the cycle and the pattern can be the same in any way, that it happens, where it happens, who it happens from. So just like physical abuse, maybe it starts off with, a push or a shove, and that victim just, it's like, they don't even say anything. The abuser says, okay, they're going to take that. Next thing you know, it's going to be a big punch in the face, and it's just going to keep on getting worse, because they're going to say, oh, they're accepting it, so I could get away with more. Same happens with verbal abuse. Exact same thing. It keeps on escalating up higher and higher when you give that leeway, which is why I do not agree with the walk away method, because self-defense is, to me, self-respect. And if you don't say anything, nothing's gonna even change. And that's also saying, okay, I just gave you the free ticket, I'm gonna walk away and keep silent. So yeah, they're gonna keep on escalating up and make it even worse and do even worse things that harm you even more. And with the condition normalized victimization syndrome, they keep going down and down. And I was discussing this, with my friend Karen, because even she realized that, she said, many people would say that I'm emotional. We're both emotional, and just the way we speak and everything. Some people would see that as, not good, or even kind of put me down for it. But you know what? Hey, she actually made a good point, is that, we let our feelings out. When you shove them back and just hold them back there, are they going anywhere? No. That's where communication is important in relationships too. Also, it has to be effective, and both have to put in effort, no matter what type of relationship it is. So like I had stated in another video topic, is that, I already knew that Ken would not apologize. Like I said, is that when people even said, you think he'll apologize for that really awful stuff he did to you? I was like, what? I even looked at them like, are you nuts? Like, you actually think Ken is going to apologize? I mean, out of everybody I've known in my life, I'd say that Ken is the least likely to apologize out of every single person I've known in my life to step up to things he did wrong to somebody that hurt them. I really cannot see that in him, based upon how I've known him and what I've known. Especially if it's something big that was, extremely cruel and despicable, he's very unlikely to step up to what he did. Maybe something, small, but nothing big like that would he ever step up. Because I do not see that, and never expected that. So I guess, then when they said that, it's not something I was hurt by, that he didn't apologize, because I never expected him to. And that was another problem, because what did I do? I accepted the behaviors that were really cruel and despicable, that deceived and betrayed me, and I just let it slide as though it didn't happen. That also gave him the power to continue and make even worse things happen after. So I'm going to get back to personal boundaries that I've made so far, based upon my friend Nina's advice as to what I should do, based upon even the current situation and my past situations, to really get a good look at myself as to what I need to do in order to not continue having toxic relationships that end up hurting me in the end. And she's absolutely correct. And with my friend Karen's help and talking with her about what she's going through and what I'm going through, it's like I said, we both kind of worked it out together as to what we both need together, personally, as to having more self-respect, self-confidence, and having more positively fulfilling relationships that include the word respect. All those letters. So, step by step. It doesn't happen overnight, and I know that. I can teach about it, but you know what? Hey, I'm still going through those steps too. Believe me, I'm still going through it. I know what I'm going through. Of course, there's times that I don't want to admit it, but I already know I'm still going through those steps. I'm still in the healing process, but I've come pretty far. I mean, people always say, wow, you're so strong. You've been through all that, and you've done this and that. Actually, people more people actually see the progress that I've made, as in, the amount that I've done, that I myself didn't even notice. I was like, wow, you've seen that and that. But that's just how it goes. You don't really see all your achievements as much as others will. So back to personal boundaries. This was not easy. I'll admit that right now. This was very hard for me to do. I am not going to be an option in someone's life. My status on my relationships will depend on their efforts within the relationship I have with them. Standing me up by dropping plans with me to do something else with others. Only talking to me when it is only convenient for them. Only associating with me when I am not having any problems in my life. Making lame excuses and exceptions for not making barely or no effort in that relationship I have with them. I will not tolerate being ghosted or ignored by others who claimed that they are my friend and care about me. I learned this when Ken ghosted me for several months. I had never been ghosted by a friend before Ken had done it to me. I honestly felt more pain and was traumatized the most by that, even when I was in the process of escaping my 3 alcoholics. It was actually how Ken had started to treat me that caused me the most pain over everything else that I was experiencing during that time. Even after I had escaped, the way that Ken treated me was the most painful part of healing from what I had just been through. Ken continued to ghost me even after I had escaped, which continued to hold me back from moving forward to get through what already was excruciatingly painful process of healing. The first boundary I had for myself was based upon the bullying incidents that happened online, which I made after certain people had lied to Ken about me. Ken ended up also attacking me in very despicable and cruel ways. I ended up going through one of the deepest depressions I ever had in my life. I also ended up with the worst negative effects due to that particular trauma. I had began to have social anxiety and fear of any type of relationship I had with others. New boundary. Not forgivable. I will not respect anyone who interferes or attempts to cause harm to the relationships I have with others that I valued and were important to me. Yes, that's a new boundary I made after the last bullying incident online, and I actually did keep that as a boundary even before the current situation, because somebody had done that and interfered, and that was Asuka with Rumster. And I made a promise to myself I would never be friends with somebody who done that again. And I feel the same way now, as if somebody has done basically what Ken had done, I will never accept that again. And again, I stuck to that this time, and I went right away. I said goodbye, and I blocked them. I said, I'm done. I'm not going to even risk being friends with that person ever again, period. Okay, intimate relationships. As for boundaries, now this was a little bit hard because I haven't had that many intimate partnerships due to my situation that I was in. I did have boyfriends and stuff like that, but I never had the freedom to actually experience it because my 3 alcoholics even had control over my friendships and stuff like that. So I never had the freedom to really experience many relationships. That's another issue and problem that I had when I got out, because I didn't have the experience like most others would have by my age. So, intimate relationship boundaries. I expect that person to want to do things that make me happy and positively fulfilled. I think it's important in a relationship, any relationship, to do things that the partner enjoys doing with you. Not because just they want to do it for their own fulfillment, but they're doing it for the relationship too. Like, say, I enjoy going on rides with that person because it makes me feel closer to them. It actually can improve the relationship and end up benefiting both people, not just the person who wants to do that activity. So many people think that it's just being selfish, that, I want to do this, but they want to lay on the couch all day. No, it's because I want to build a closer relationship with them, and there's certain things, doing certain things with that person or what they like to do with you, that makes that relationship stronger. And that takes what? Effort. And if that person doesn't want to put effort into doing that, then there's no point in that relationship. I expect that person to want to be open and honest with me at all times. That was a huge problem, especially when Asuka got involved. Grumster had been communicating with me less and had not shared many things with me, and I know he was holding back a lot of things based upon things that happened because of that person. It was basically power and control over him as to how he communicated with me, what happened, and this and that. Even now, I know that's going on, and I actually seen it happen when I seen them together. So, that's another thing, is that if there's somebody else that's interfering, almost pretty much the same as with Ken being in the Bowling Cult clan. He had to follow the rules of that cult clan. Otherwise, what? From being the bigger person, being the victim. So, but again, he chose to be in that Bowling Cult clan that was attacking me and harming me. Same here. Grumster chose to remain in a relationship with someone who was trying to harm another relationship. So he made the choice of that or me. That was his choice. And again, his choice. Same as it was Ken's choice to be in that Bowling Cult clan that was harming me. And he knew it, but he still engaged in it because what? It's easier to be an asshole. I expect that person to respect what I need in my life to become a better person for myself, even if they don't find those same things important to them in their life. Like, at this time in my life, the most important thing to me is my dream, which is having a job and being independent. That is my goal. If you're retired or you haven't, you don't want to work anymore or, anything like that, that's you. I'm working on me. And in a relationship, both partners don't have to be at the same place in their life as for goals, as for personal goals, but respecting the other's goals and seeing them as important too, even if they're not something you're working on, is a huge part of having a healthy relationship. Because in a healthy relationship, you're going to be building up that person too, to be a better person. And you can't do that if you're, downing them on what their main personal goals are. That's going to make them feel like a better person, more self-confident, have more self-worth, So that's a huge, important factor, is going along with that person's goals in life that improves their self-worth as to who they are as a person. I expect my partner to respect my boundaries based upon physical intimacy. And that's absolutely correct. Just like I had discussed about greetings and sexual intimacy as to what the norms are in our culture. Well, I expect, when I'm in a partnership, that I have the choice and that right as to how far that intimacy goes. I don't owe my partner anything. That's a huge thing within our society. Even when I was, since I was in high school, even before, there's that 2-week rule that you need to put out, 2 weeks after dating a guy, or, all that BS. If that person actually cares about you, this made me think of my friend, Tom. He was like, 2-week rule, what the heck, So if they really care about you, there is no such thing. They're going to respect what you want too. Just like I brought up about, even if I like hugging somebody, I want them to like it too. I'm not just going to do it, if they don't like it, it's not going to feel good to me. That's exactly how it should be in an intimate partnership too. You want that person to actually want it too and get those good feelings too. Not just because you're going to get those, whatever feelings, but then they're not. Just like Ken said, why do it if it only makes you unhappy? Not worth it. Bingo. I expect my partner not to allow others to interfere with our relationship. Again, I just mentioned, like with the current or last relationship, is that, that person did allow somebody to interfere, and that caused more and more problems, and it went higher and higher. So that's one thing I will not tolerate ever again. I expect my partner to defend me no matter who is involved with that situation. I have no problem with who somebody is friends with. It was not about jealousy, but, if somebody, even if it was a male friend, if somebody threatens me that makes me unsafe, if that person cares about me and they have personal integrity, they would have said something and spoke up and said, yo, don't talk to her like that. Don't you dare threaten her, So in this case, that's exactly what that person did. We actually went to the grocery store because this person wanted power and control and wanted to be the one that even drove to be in control, and threatened to leave me there at Walmart during a lightning storm. And Grumster was right there while they said that to me and threatened me and didn't say one word. So, yeah, not acceptable. That's the same as, Ken being in that hate group where they were saying really despicable and cruel things and then going along with it. Even though Grumster was an onlooker, he still encouraged that person and what they had said to me. I expect my partner to put in the same amount of effort into our relationship that I put into it. Making time to spend with me. Making an effort to communicate with me on a regular basis. Yes, in the beginning, before that person that interfered got involved, we used to communicate regularly and often. And then all of a sudden, when that person got involved, even my friend noticed that within texts, is that it went, even the way that they talk to me. Just like with Ken, when he's, like I said, under the influence, the way he talks to me changes as to how disrespectful, and even gets worse and worse. Like he ends up in the hate group again, and then, exactly. And that's very noticeable too, in the way that he started talking to me after the last bullying incident, and even the recent bullying incident where he had been in that hate group, and it became even worse based on how he spoke about me and said the most cruel and despicable thing anybody has ever said about me. So that is what I have been working on, is personal boundaries and writing them out. And so far that is what I have, and that will be the ending for part 3. And I'll be going over this most likely as to everything put together as a whole based upon what I have just discussed, which is what I've been working on, is my personal boundaries. So I hope that maybe my personal boundaries and understanding them can help others come up with their own as to what I experienced and how I was able to process and actually think it out and come up with these boundaries. It was not easy to do. Like I said, I was hoping that I could just tell my friend Nina, could you just do it for me? But it took a lot of hard work and thinking based upon even talking with it was actually my friend Karen, and talking to her about what's been happening to me and my feelings about it and everything else that helped me come to where I realized what boundaries I do need in order to have more healthy relationships. And knowing now, the hard part is going to be knowing when they're unhealthy and getting rid of them. That's going to be the hardest part, because again, there's the want and then the feelings in between and the need. Step by step, it's a process of healing and making yourself be a better person, because I do deserve to be treated with respect. I do deserve those letters and that word respect, like Ken had actually stated and agreed with me 100%. So I hope to see you for the next one. I'm Shelley Rothus, and I'm a different kind of victim. See you next time.